Good morning, sweet world, and welcome to the No Dunks podcast on the Athletic Network, a fine network. It's Monday, December 23rd, 2024. I'm J.E. Skeets here in the yard, and alongside me through the power of technology, super producer JD.
Hello.
Hello, JD. I got to know, how was the drive home to Canada, and how is the weather where you are in Ontario right now?
The drive was long, but completely uneventful. It was perfect weather. Got colder and colder every stop we made. Freezing my tits off over here. I'm not used to this, but hey, it's great to be home, and it's Christmas, and it's frosty everywhere, and I think we're gonna have a white Christmas over here.
Oh, it's a miracle. I did hear it legit got stupid cold though, like basically right when you went home, like minus 20 Celsius, like overnight.
Yeah. I went to hit the to hit the spray for the windshield, completely frozen. Never thought of it because we don't use antifreeze in
we don't use antifreeze in the south here. Oh wow. Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know what we're gonna do because it is solid. Like I drove for a couple of hours hoping, okay, get it nice and hot, and now nothing. So it's I don't know what to do.
Okay.
Anyway, so every so often I'm going to be getting out of my car and like scrubbing off the slush and sleet, but we'll deal with it.
Well, you're there for a little bit at least. Maybe it'll
a little bit, yeah.
Maybe it'll warm up. JD obviously back in Canada for the holidays. We got Trey in Chicago. I believe Tass is in beautifully warm Jamaica.
Yeah.
Doing a little bit better than we are. It's cold here in Atlanta, if I'm being honest. I got my Christmas sweater on. I got Jordan dunking on Santa. Give everybody a view on YouTube for that. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't on YouTube. That helps us out. And podcast listeners, if you have not, leave us a 5-star rating and review. I know you can leave reviews on Apple Podcasts. You can leave those 5 stars on Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
So go do that. You can't say anything. I guess you can comment on episodes, but you can't comment on the show. But anyway, we're appreciative of it all. Solo Skeets here. We're going to talk about the NBA weekend. A little different than our normal NBA weekend winners and losers. I had some big news that I want to talk about. Fox trade rumors, Caruso signing his extension with OKC, on another unfortunate injury to the Magic. But we will touch on some of the big games. But before all that, JD, we had another wedgie. Oh, it had been a while since we had a wedgie. Nearly 2 full weeks since we had one. But Jason Tatum, in garbage time, fired one up. He's like, it'd be cool if I hit 10 threes in this game. But he, I was going to say unfortunately, but fortunately missed and stuck the wedgie. So wedgie number 13. And you saw the pace there at wedgietracker.com. Man, that fell off hard. We're at 44 now. Yeah.
Big time. We'll have a run.
Hopefully we get a couple Christmas wedgies.
That's what I was just going to say. Hopefully.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be nice? Because then our social media accounts would be popping like crazy. Oh, man. What happens if we get a wedgie in the animated game between the Spurs and the Knicks?
Wow.
Do you think they've built something in to the live animation database for what if that happens?
All I can say is they better have.
Yeah.
That's all.
At the very least, cut to Donald Duck or whoever, go, oh my God, he's doing his little tantrum or something. That'd be funny.
Exactly.
All right. Yeah. So hopefully we get a wedgie in that first game on Christmas Day, at least. But let's get into some of the big news. The biggest story from the weekend was The Athletic reporting that De'Aaron Fox's agent, Rich Paul, met with the Sacramento Kings front office before Thursday's game against the Lakers. The discussion was focused on an existential question that needs to be answered if this partnership that began 8 seasons ago between Fox and the Kings is going to continue long term. I'm quoting from the article here. While league sources say Fox has not asked for a trade, the former All-Star and his prominent agent are reading the room in Sacramento before deciding what comes next, end quote. I have the link to that article from our guys at The Athletic in the show notes, so highly encourage you to go check that out. For those that don't know, Fox did not sign a 3-year, $165 million extension with the Kings last summer. But a lot of people thought that was just the wise weight move, right? The wise and weight financial move, because next July, Fox could sign a 4-year, $229 million extension to stay in Sacramento. So if you do the numbers, it's like he was going to be averaging just more millions per season, like a couple more, in addition to an extra year of security. But now the worry is perhaps it's not all about the money, and Fox is getting tired of not winning and may want to go somewhere. So was this Fox and his agents' not so subtle way of telling the Kings front office, hey, do something? Like, this might be the meme of the guy poking the stick. Do something here, because if Fox and Sabonis are your star players, it feels like you need some more defense around them, maybe more spacing, maybe some more rim protection. But what's happened here is it feels like Kings fans are completely torn on whether make changes now, all right, let's do it, or this idea of blow it up. So make changes now, meaning like, okay, let's try and keep Fox happy. Let's try and not write this season off immediately, even though we keep losing here. Let's turn it around. Or again, blow it up. And maybe that involves trading De'Aaron Fox. The camp that says, hey, this season is not a lost cause, can point to a couple things. One, oddly, the Kings have a positive point differential, despite this sub 500 record. Okay, there's that. They've also been complete garbage in the clutch, which is really weird when they have Fox and they have DeRozan. We thought this team will be elite in the clutch. It's been the opposite, but hey, maybe that like evens out. Maybe that bounces back a little bit. They've played, I guess you could say, better, though the record hasn't showed it, with Malik Monk inserted into the starting lineup. And then the other idea is like the concept that you can improve a team during the season, like mid-season. A good example is the Mavericks last year sort of started hot, then they started spiraling. They made some good moves around the trade deadline. Probably moves that the Kings could have made to support their star guys in Luka and Kyrie. I'm talking obviously PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford, and suddenly they make a finals run. So it's like, I don't think that's going to happen in Sacramento's case, but you can look at teams that have sort of turned it around with big deals. But, and I think this is a huge but, there's worry that if the Kings scramble to improve the roster short term, and you use any sort of assets to sort of do that, you're one, faced with the realistic chance that Fox still leaves. And then two, of course, that it doesn't even help your team. Because you start looking at it going like, even if they're like, okay, let's try and keep Fox and Rich Paul happy, like what are they doing? And that's why you potentially look at trading him sooner rather than later. The Athletic noted that rival teams are monitoring this Sacramento situation, and surely if Fox hits the block, there's going to be a number of interested suitors, but one of the teams in the article is the San Antonio Spurs. And, you can get to a Spurs-Kings trade pretty easily. It also makes sense. Like, Fox is still just 27. He is an all-star. He's an all-NBA. He's probably playing the best basketball offensively of his career here, or at least it's comparable to his all-star and all-NBA season. So you get why you would want to pair Fox with, say, Wembanyama in San Antonio. But who would come back in a hypothetical trade? I know Kings fans are like, I've seen a lot of them saying, let's get Castle back, If we're trading Fox, let's get that young point guard in Castle back. I don't think the Spurs are going to do that. I think they're much more likely to offer either Devin Vassell and draft capital for Fox, or Keldon Johnson and Zach Collins and draft capital for Fox. That's what I think the makeup of a Spurs-Kings trade would look like. Sort of one of their wing guys. And I guess Jeremy Sohan could be in the mix as well. But then draft capital, because they have a lot of picks from other teams in this 25 draft. You could also call up the Rockets, say, hey, Fox or Van Vliet, and maybe some of your young talent, some of your picks. I think that's a possibility. Again, this is the Kings saying, okay, he's leaving. Let's just not prolong this. The longer we wait on this stuff, always the worse the deals get. He is under contract still for a year after this. And he is a talented player. And there's obviously still a desire for a lot of teams for someone like Fox, I think. So those are the two that come to mind. There's a bunch of other squads. I know we'll get into this more, maybe as these rumors gain more steam. And I can't wait to talk to the guys about it when they get back. But this is also from The Athletic. Made me laugh. Quote, the Kings are well aware this roster needs an upgrade, if not multiple. More specifically, team sources say they're prioritizing backup center and the wing spots. So the two things that they've needed for years here and generally have just avoided doing anything about, I guess they're now saying, oh, damn, we could use a backup center and maybe some guys that can actually play the wing. Bunch of familiar names were listed in the article. Jeremy Grant, John Collins, a couple Wizards players, and Jonas Valanciunas and Kyle Kuzma. Brooklyn's Cam Johnson, also known to be of significant interest. That, to me, is the most exciting one. All those other ones, I'm like, okay, John Collins wouldn't cost a lot to get, even though I'm sure Danny Ainge would want like 3 first-round draft picks. But the other names don't do a whole lot for me, and I probably imagine not a lot of Kings fans. But maybe you just do it. I mean, this is where we're at here, unfortunately. Fox is averaging 26.2 points per game, 6 assists, 5 boards, flirting with 2 steals. He's like one of 4 guys in the league that put up these type of numbers, which is pretty crazy. And the other guys are like MVP candidates, Luka, SGA, Jokic, that, hit those marks. Fox is 2 tiers below those guys, but still, he obviously has an incredible skill in this league, and that's speed. That's generally coming through in the clutch, obviously a scorer. There's this whole other wrinkle, too, that if Fox makes All-NBA this season, he would be eligible for the massive 5-year, like $340+ million deal in his next contract. And I sort of think this is what's going on here. I think 2 things. One, Fox might just be tired of this. And it's like, okay, 8 years here. We had 1 good year. What's going on now? I'm tired of it. I want to play for a winning franchise, or at least play into postseason series. There's that. And then I also think maybe a part of it is this whole like max contract type of thing, all NBA status, because he's looking at it like, look, I'm putting up numbers that these other MVP guys are putting up. My team stinks. He needs to take some blame for that, of course, but my team stinks. I'm not going to get any accolades here. Like I may not make I might not make an all-star team. I may not make all NBA because there's so many talented guards across the league and in the West. When you're talking all-star, it's like, well, your record's going to matter. And that sort of happened last year when he didn't make any of those accolades. And I wonder if that's like frustrating too. Like, now you're costing me money, as he might be looking at it, or at least Rich Paul is. So while it's not impossible for this to play out before the trade deadline about the idea of him moving, or the Kings moving Fox, I think the likely scenario is that this is a summer decision, when it's a bit easier to do multiplayer, potentially multi-team, sort of bigger trades. It's just less problematic than doing it during the season. Obviously, roster spots come into play. And I just feel like this will be more of a summer thing. I went and listened to Deuce and Mo. I bring them up all the time. A fantastic Kings podcast. Man, my heart was breaking for these guys talking about it the other night. They compared this Fox and King's sort of relationship to a high school breakup, where it's like, it's just time and it's no one's really fault. It's my fault and your fault, but it's really just like we've grown tired of each other and maybe we just need fresh starts. And I think that's a fair comparison, but I would add to it, maybe not high school, but like early college relationships where you're like living with the person and then you break up, because that's what it feels like here. Like, I don't know if they're going to be able to come back from this. And again, maybe by the grace of God, the Kings front office can like do the Mavericks like trades last year. What does that mean even? Like, you're trading Keegan Murray? You're trading Monk? I mean, it would have to be a player of any note to get something back to switch it up. DeRozan, I guess? Anyway, it's going to be that awkward, like, we're broken up. We still respect each other, but we're still living together. I feel like that's where we're at and where we're headed. And to quote the excellent Kings Herald blog, and hence the reason I included them on our thumbnail for this show, they wrote, quote, and this was about the Spurs being interested and other teams being interested, quote, "The vultures can smell impending death and are eager to extract what they can from the carcass." Yeah. It feels like with these reports, with Fox's comments on Draymond Green's podcast, it sort of kicked all this off. His idea of like, what are we doing, basically? What's the plan here, Sacramento? That here we go. Here come the vultures. Oh, well, what's that? Is that roadkill over there? Oh, what can we get from that? And that's what happens here in the NBA. Let me take a quick drink. of my coffee as I go on a rant about the Kings. But let's hear from you guys in the chat here in the stream team. Do you think the Kings can salvage this season? If they can, what does that look like? Outside of just like Keegan Murray hitting shots and, the bench finally being able to do something. I guess Kevin Huerter being able to play basketball again. Trey Lyles staying healthy. Is there that, or are there deals to be made? Or do you think rip the damn Band-Aid off? What's done is done. And obviously change the makeup of your team by trading Fox and maybe leaning into either just solely around Domantas Sabonis or, building for the future in terms of picks and young talent. And who do you think that is? Do you think it's the Spurs could do it? You like with the Rockets? Would the Rockets even want Fox? You get into that question too. It's like they feel like they're just going to be like, nope, we're slow playing this. It's almost like a respect thing to Van Vliet. And of course, Dylan Brooks, like these guys are helping us get to the next level. Let's see what we can do in a postseason. I think that's where they would lean. But then again, if the deal's too good to be true and Fox is available, maybe that's a guy they look at. But that to me was like, that'd be Jalen Green being rerouted somewhere, and it gets maybe a little more complicated. But let's hear your thoughts, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it a lot more. Okay, let's move on to yesterday. Thunder guard Alex Caruso agreeing to a 4-year, $81 million contract extension through the 28-29 season. The deal keeps Caruso, who is under contract for just $9.9 million this season, bargain deal, keeps him out of free agency. They did not waste any time making this extension happen. He became eligible for an extension on Saturday, and then they gave him the max amount of money they could in terms of the contract extension. It's sort of a no-brainer. Again, 4 years, $81 million for Caruso, who's an all-defensive guy. He's two-time selection to that team. Looking at a third here, $20 million per season for a player of his caliber, I think more than reasonable, especially as the salary cap goes up, up, up. He leads the NBA in defensive field goal percentage allowed. He ranks 7th in deflections per game. He's 10th in steals, despite only playing 20 minutes per game. There's that whole part. I think that's wise of OKC too. I think, and look, they have they can do this because they have a deep, deep bench, but limiting him and the way he plays and the manic sort of energy he plays with, I think that's smart to keep his minutes down, because I think that had bumped up a lot last year, right? He was flirting with probably 27, 28 minutes per game when he was on the Bulls. And they, of course, needed him more. So they're slow playing that, I think, wisely. So the Thunder now have all 14 players under guaranteed contract through 25-26, still comfortably shy of the luxury tax line next season. Some people go, whoa, when's this going to get expensive for this team? Well, you're looking at 26-27 for that. That's when Chet Holmgren, that's when Jalen Williams, J-Dub come off their rookie contracts. So yes, it starts to get a little more expensive, and you'll have big decisions to make, of course. But then they have all these guys expiring around that time in Hartenstein, Lou Dort, and I think Kenrich Williams. So like just really smart roster and salary cap management here by OKC and Presti. I thought Kevin Pelton had a really interesting point on this too, because as Caruso ages up here, maybe he loses his athleticism, and that has an effect on his defense and blah, 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 blah. But Pelton wrote, down the road, it's possible Caruso's salary could become an issue for OKC because the extension takes him through age 35, by which point Caruso's declining athleticism might make it more difficult for him to defend bigger opponents at least. But this is Pelton's like key point here. The Thunder's stockpile of future first round picks gives them the ability to get out of this contract if needed, or any contract on their team for that matter. That's an interesting, like we don't think about it that way, but it is sort of like a nice, like, okay, damn, this player fell off. We need to move that contract. How do you do it? I mean, you hope the player is desired, but if not, teams will take picks, and you got a million of them. And you're like, all right, hey, you take Caruso here, and we'll give you the pick. Again, that's like worst case scenario. That's a huge drop off. That's like the numbers are really crunched. This is when SGA is like super max, and he's making 80 million a year. Like we're looking down the line here. But the downside risk is more than acceptable if Caruso is the difference maker right now for an OKC title run this year and the next year. And like, that's what they're banking on, of course. Full circle moment for Caruso too. He went unselected in the 2016 NBA draft, and he started his pro career as a member of the Thunder's training camp, and then he was playing for the G League affiliate, and then obviously bounced around the league a little bit, won a title with the Lakers. He makes a couple other teams, and then here he is back in OKC getting this huge deal, which I think, did somebody say like he just doubled his earnings in this like instantaneously? So that's pretty damn cool. And again, not an insane contract, but the max they could give him at this point in terms of the extension. So congrats to Alex Caruso. I always love when a teammate of a player on the team like drops the eye emojis or like the money emoji or whatever when one of their guys gets paid. I follow Lou Dort because I'm a Canadian homer, and he did something similar, just like on the Caruso extension news. He was pumped. Hey, dinner's on you, bud. All right, next piece of news. Not as fun as Caruso getting paid. Magic forward Mo Wagner has suffered a torn ACL in his left knee and is out for the season. This is a sick joke being played on Orlando right now. Wagner suffered the injury with about 2:30 left in the first quarter of Saturday night's epic comeback win over the Heat. Scrappy, my Orlando team. But Mo underwent the MRI on Sunday, and that revealed the tear. It didn't look good if you saw the clip or were watching the game live. He didn't bang knees with anyone. He was making a move into the paint and sort of abruptly stopped, and that left knee buckled. He went down, and yeah, you knew it was going to be a significant time. You were hoping it wasn't going to be maybe an ACL tear in the left knee and taking him out for the season. That's what it is. Because again, this is what's gone on all season here for the Orlando Magic. It's like every single guy gets injured, next guy steps up, and they get injured, next guy steps up, they get injured. That unfortunate trend continues here. Wagner with Mo, there's two Wagners that are injured right now, but Mo Wagner probably was on the short list at least for Sixth Man of the Year candidate. I don't think he was going to win the thing, but he was averaging 13 points per game, 5 boards, and about 1.5 assists in under 19 minutes per game. I think he ranked second in the NBA in total scoring off the bench. But he is one of those players that, his impact, it's way bigger than the stats that he was putting up. He's such a connector, an emotional leader, obviously plays with like a lot of spirit. I think he's really, really well liked by that Orlando team. So that will be the void they really have to fill. Like forget the stats. It's sort of those little things. That said, Orlando, very deep at the center position. I remember we almost like mocked it a little bit, didn't we, during the offseason when they were signing every center? Because in addition to Wagner, the Magic signed Wendell Carter Jr., they signed Jonathan Isaac, they signed Goga Bitadze, all to new long-term contracts during the offseason. So if there's a team that can handle this, I guess it's Orlando, even though it is a tough loss and no Paolo and no Franz. But man, if you saw the game on Saturday, they just won't quit. They missed those guys. No Jalen Suggs. Okay, so Paolo, Franz, Suggs out. That's their 3 best players. Then they lose Mo Wagner here to a knee injury pretty early. Then they watch Carter Jr. get ejected in the second quarter. So that's like 5 of their best players. They're down 22 points entering the fourth quarter. And despite all that, they somehow come back to win the game handily. They won it 121-114 in regulation over Miami. An insane fourth quarter, one of the biggest comebacks we've ever seen when you're just looking at the fourth quarter. Held the Heat to just 8 points on 2 of 18 shooting in that final frame. Forced 5 turnovers, and it was like the Cole Anthony show. Like, I guess it's going to be Cole Anthony's time here to kick ass. He finished with 35 points, 9 assists, 8 boards. He was pretty emotional after the game, actually, getting the on-floor interview. So it was really cool to see. And I think he single-handedly, well, he did. He outscored the Heat 13-8, I believe, in the fourth quarter alone. Really weird. Really good, scrappy Orlando comeback. Really bad Heat loss. So I don't know where you would slot that one if we were doing your normal NBA weekend winners and losers. But we'll see if the Magic can continue to keep their head above water here despite another injury. And I guess there's some positive signs. Paolo might start ramping up sort of like scrimmage action. I think we're getting close to that. So I guess that's going to be New Year. We'll see him. Franz obviously a little bit after that. And, Suggs is nothing like long-term, I believe, but still sucks. Okay, as for NBA weekend winners and losers, I'm not going to normally do it like I give you this one. I'll just go through some key things I saw from the 3 nights since we last talked to you on the drop. Friday night, Joel Embiid back. Had the black protective mask on. Wow, what a look. And he played the Hornets, and he always scores against the Hornets. He had 34, and the Sixers are slowly turning things around there, at least when Embiid plays. So that was a big win. Jalen Williams scored 33 in Miami on Friday night. Jimmy Butler tweaked his ankle, but then he left the game because he got sick or he had an illness. Really impressive, and I said this on Friday's drop. They went in after that brutal cup loss in the finals to the Milwaukee Bucks. They had the back-to-back in Orlando and Miami on Thursday and Friday night. They took care of business on Thursday, and then they followed it up with a win in Miami on Friday. Amazing stuff by the best team in the Western Conference. Maybe the best team in the Eastern Conference, Cavaliers, improved to 15-1 at home on Friday night. They rolled over those NBA Cup champion Bucks, 124-101. Did you see the Milwaukee Bucks banner for the NBA Cup championship? I saw it on Wobb's Twitter account. Highly recommend you go see it if you haven't. Let's just say graphic design is not their passion in Milwaukee. It is hilariously boring. It's like, why even put that up? But it's funny. Saturday, Tatum was drawing comparisons to Larry Bird. That's what the headline read. He had a 40-point-plus triple-double, hence the comparison. I guess Bird, the last maybe Celtics player to do that. We already showed you the wedgie from that game. Again, that was right at the end. He was going for, I think it was his 10th three, because he was on 9 at that point, stuck the wedgie, but awesome game from him. It's so crazy to me, like the season he's having, obviously the Celtics team success, that this guy once again is going to likely finish 4th or 5th probably in the MVP when it's all said and done, just because of the talent in this league. It's crazy. Cade Cunningham, 28 points, 13 assists to lead the Pistons past the Suns, 133-125. No Devin Booker for Phoenix, which, no one, they can't all play together. That's just a rule in Phoenix. Somebody comes back, one of their big 3, somebody's got to go out. So Booker missed a couple games here. But Cade Cunningham, I'm going to take a small victory lap on this because I got clowned when I said it on the show back in the preseason. One of our questions we always do, who's going to be a first-time All-Star? And, we made our picks, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, there's lots of Wembanyama talk at the time. There's J-Dub, I think, who was my official pick. And then it was, what about Cade? I threw out, what about Cade? Why not? Maybe the Pistons surprise us, better record than some thought. He'll probably have the numbers. He had the numbers, even despite his team struggling. And I think Cade Cunningham has a really good chance to make this All-Star team. I really do. He'll be the last pick if he makes it in the East, but I really like his chances as an injury replacement if somebody goes down. So Cade Cunningham he's having a really good run right now, and that was a monster game, the 28-13. They sort of dominated most of that game against the Suns. Wembanyama on Saturday night became the 6th NBA player ever with a 30-point, 10-block game in a win versus Portland. It's really weird to see a guy hit 4+ threes in a game, then get 10 blocks. All doing this at the age he is. His team is winning. And on Friday, Tass and I were debating All-Star starters, and we're like, man, does Wemby start? Will he get the fan support? Can he get the fan support over LeBron and Durant and Jokic? Or can he be similar? And then where do the media put him and where do the players put him? It feels like he's going to be a lock to actually be an All-Star selected by the coaches, but I think it's still in play here. This guy could start in his second year. But what a line. He's just doing things that like what Hakeem did and David Robinson did. Only a few others to do those type of games. And then on Sunday, we had 3 games. I'll go through them quickly. The Pacers used a 70-point second half to rout the Kings, 122-95. That's their 4th straight victory. Pacers are starting to figure it out. Offense looking a little more unlocked here. helps playing the Kings, I guess, too, who are, oh man, they are down in the dumps. Jarris Walker went off the backboard, if you saw this clip, to set up a dime to Thomas Bryant for 3 in the corner. So he threw it off the backboard, caught it, and then in one motion kick to the corner, Bryant hit the 3. This was like as the game was out of hand. They were just starting to create a mixtape. Halliburton had done this before. So this is like a little Pacers thing here. And I've said for years, like a broken record, the backboard is the team's 6th offensive player on the floor. We need to see more of this, get more creative. I quite frankly can't believe Jokic hasn't unlocked this. Somebody tell him. And by the next game, he'll be like throwing passes to himself off the backboard and to other guys off the backboard off weird angles. It's a 6th offensive player, I'm telling you. Dylan Brooks scored 27 points as the Rockets beat my Raps, 114-110. First win for Houston in Toronto since 2019, so it had been a while. No Freddie, but Brooks was awesome. It's like the Dylan Brooks experience, man. I'm telling you. This guy looks like the best player on the floor some nights and then looks like the worst. But he was awesome, and Rockets came back because the Raps had a great first half. Jacoby Walter, don't call me Walker, the rook for the Raps, he had career high 27, so that was promising. Scotty Barnes couldn't hit a shot. That was less promising. But, you know, a classic Raps game this year where it's competitive at least. It was a weird ending even. Like they were down 9 and suddenly the Raps couldn't miss a shot, but then they couldn't get enough stops to actually take the lead. It got a lot closer than it needed to, is my point. But entertaining. And then finally, Jokic overcame a slow start. He got his 9th triple-double as the Denver Nuggets beat the Pelicans 132-129 in overtime. Something I said late last week, at least, is like every Nuggets game, there are no easy victories. I would have to go check like their legit basketball reference page and like their schedule and all their games. But it does feel like to me, and I know I'm wrong, but it feels like they have maybe 1 or 2 just like quote unquote easy wins this year. Every win is like, you know, down the stretch or in overtime. I think they're 3-0 in overtime now. And they held on some brick shots from the Pels, McCollum, DeJounte. Something hilarious about this game, because this was like an earlier game last night. I was watching a lot of this one at the end. Joel Myers and Daniels on the call for the Pels. Like the home broadcast, like Joel Myers, a man's got to have a dog. He's deep voice, Joel Myers, we always talk about. He is so over this team. It sounds like he hates this team, man. He is like, he's openly like, well, that's a horrible shot. I'm like, oh, what are we doing? Oh, look what the Nuggets do. They go inside. We just take a contested 3, like non-stop. His disdain for this team is hilarious to me. He's speaking truth, speaking facts, but it's very funny when you hear the home broadcast, just like at game, 30, just like he's over it. He is done. And then, I felt bad for Yves Missy. He had a good game. He's taking on Jokic. He's completely outclassed, but he had a really good game. But then down the stretch, you know, we got into the foul game because the Nuggets were up 3. Jamal Murray played really well too. He had some clutch shots. They were up 3, so they fouled Missy. So now he's got to hit the first, of course, and then try and miss the second. He misses the first badly, but he gets another chance because they called a lane violation on Westbrook, who could not believe it. He was literally had his hands, his head in his hands. It almost looked like he was like cursing out the ref, but he didn't want to look at the ref, so he was just doing it to his hands and covering his face. Anyway, Missy got another chance to hit the first one. He missed it again. And I was like, oh, damn. And then he tried. And then they're down 3. So now he needs to miss. And of course, the ball needs to be tipped out for a miracle 3-point shot. And he does these guys trying to do the thing where you chuck it off the front rim. And he missed it by about 2 feet. And it just hit the backboard. And that's a violation. So anyway, I felt bad for him because he had a great game otherwise. But Nuggets get that victory. And it was all Jokic down the stretch and Jamal Murray. That 2-man game, and you had Aaron Gordon in the dunker spot. Never easy with them, but they got it done. They needed that one. My big NBA weekend loser, if I had to pick just one, is if you saw the Golden State Warriors matchup with the Wolves on Saturday night. It was delayed for nearly 30 minutes due to a net malfunction that appeared to be caused by, let's call them some pregame antics from Jonathan Kuminga. So prior to the game, Kuminga was like hanging on the rim. And he was like, while he was hanging up there, he's like just messing around, like knocking away shots from his teammates, like trying to let nothing through, right? And on one of them, he sort of like puts his hand through the rim and like gets tangled with the net and like must have like really ripped it or really screwed it up to the point where just before the game was about to tip, the Warriors, the refs, they all notice, oh, that net's all messed up. All right, call in the operations staff. Let's assess this. Okay, get the ladders out, get the workers up there, and they got to trying to fix it, but it took forever. It was hilarious. Like crowd was like booing because like you thought like once one guy came down, but then another guy would go up, and it was pretty funny. And like Steph Curry's trying to stay warm, everybody's trying to stay warm. They're all talking, they're all hanging out. Super delayed. But then in that same game, even though the Warriors won, some questionable, let's call it, shot selection from Kuminga. Maybe not moving the ball, maybe forcing some mid-range action. And Steve Kerr didn't call him out by name, but he called out the young players and this nonsense of like, hey, you have Steph Curry on your team, move the ball. We won a lot of championships by playing that way. So maybe like give it to him, you'll get it back, move, run our offense. Not this like me, like let me get my shots. I'm like, there's clips going around. You see the Kuminga shot. So I wouldn't say a good weekend for Kuminga. And, we saw the showcase when he got the starts and he got the numbers. And, it feels like a matter of time before he's dealt because there's some frustration there. But that's what I have from the NBA weekend and the news on Fox and Caruso and Mo Wagner. Obviously, I will apologize for just talking nonstop there for 35 minutes. But that's what a solo Skeets podcast is. I'm going to be back on December 26th, Boxing Day, in Canada at least, to recap the Christmas Day slate. Here it is. Look at that graphic. Thank you, JD. Spurs Knicks. Will Goofy stick a wedgie? That's what everybody's wondering at noon. Followed by the Wolves Mavs. We got Sixers Celtics. We got Lakers Warriors. And we have Nuggets Suns. Trying to think which game I'm most excited for, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I think it is the Spurs Knicks. And not because of the the Disney angle, but more of the Wembanyama in MSG against a very good Knicks team. I'm pretty pumped for that one. So hopefully that day or that game gets us started for a good slate of games. And I'll be back on the 26th to try my best to recap them for all of you guys. If you joined me live here and you got away from the fam for 40 minutes, hit the like button for yourself. Subscribe, give us a 5-star rating and review. We will pick up the Pick'em battle for the month of December right at the end of the month. Okay, we're going to wait. We have a tie between Tass and Esh for last place on December 30th. We'll all be back together in theory in the Classic Factory. And those guys will pick on opposite sides, and the loser will have to basically host a show or co-host a show or correspond all week from outside. And it is chilly here, so that could be quite funny. So we'll save that for the 30th. I think we're going to jump on playback that night as well. So join the playback room. That link is in the show notes. Otherwise, we will call it there. We'll see you on the 26th. Till next time, Clipper Bros.
You heard it here first. Have a great time. Turn up. Love you guys. Awesome.
Thanks for joining me and JD. And again, we will see you in a couple days. Everybody have a safe and happy holiday on behalf of the entire No Dunks family. To yours, Merry Christmas and embrace the day.
You could stay